Welcome to ICSE Computer Application Class 10 100 Marks. I am Ganga Devi and in this video we will be discussing values and data types. I hope you have already seen the first two videos, that is Object-Oriented Programming and Introduction to Java. Apart from that, you can also find videos of strings, functions, constructors, character functions and string functions in this channel. So those who haven't subscribed till now, please subscribe it so that it will encourage me to create more videos. And those who like the video in the end, please press the like button. We can begin with the character set of Java. Before starting, first we can discuss how we have learned English. We have learned the characters, alphabets A to Z, and then the combination of alphabets will make small words, combination of words will make sentence, and combination of sentence will make paragraph or essay. Like that, while we are learning a programming language, first we will learn the characters used in the program. The characters combined will make the tokens. After learning the tokens, we will learn how to write a proper sentence or proper syntax, and then proper programming will be done. So the basic is learn how to write the characters. So character set can be defined that a set of characters available within the programming language to perform various operations. So what are the characters that we can use for writing a program? It will make the character set. So in Java, we will use the alphabets, uppercase and lowercase, according to syntax, numerals 0 to 9, symbols and operators we will use. So all these are characters. And now how these characters are used in Java? Here we will learn how to encode. Characters entered through the keyboard is encoded. Computer can understand only the binary language and the characters will turn to binary as soon as we enter. But before that, these characters are encoded in the form of numbers. That means for every alphabets we are typing, for every number we are typing, for every symbol, special symbol we are typing, a number is given, a positive number is given, and later this positive number will be translated into binary code, and this process is known as encoding. That means one number is given for every alphabet, one unique number, we can say Unicode. So one unique number is given for every alphabet, for every digit, for every symbol, and later this number will be converted to binary language which the computer can understand. So this number, it is the code of the particular character. And this popular coding or encoding system is known as encoding a number. And it is the popular encoding languages are ASCII, that is American Standard Code for Information Interchange, ISCII here, Indian Standard Code for Information Interchange, and Unicode, Universal Code. Otherwise we can say universal characters. And character set of Java is Unicode. ASCII, it is not used nowadays, and ISCII is also not that much used, and the Unicode is globally used. It is universal code, and it is a 16-bit code that encode characters. That means for every particular character there is a number. Encode character used in the language. For example, A, B, C, every number has a code, and the code range will be from 0 to 65,535. That means all the characters which we can think has a number. So large range is here. That is why we are using Unicode. Unicode has a large range. So the number will be encoded and it will be converted to binary. And in Unicode, the first 256 characters and symbols are same as ASCII code. So ASCII code 256 characters are there, and Unicode also have the same code. For example, in A, if there is a code, in the next slide we will be learning, the same code will be in Unicode also. The first 256 characters and symbols are same as ASCII code. So if the question arises, what is the character set of Java? Answer is Unicode. We can discuss about ASCII code also, because ASCII code of alphabets, numbers and space we have to study for doing various programs. ASCII code full form is American Standard Code for Information Interchange. It is a subset of Unicode, and these characters contains both uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, punctuation marks, special characters and control characters. and each symbol, whatever symbol is given in the ASCII code, is represented by a numeric value, decimal value from 0 to 255. So here we can say capital A to Z. The ASCII code of capital A to Z is 65 to 90. That means capital A ASCII code is 65, capital B it is 66, capital C it is 67, and capital Z is 90. And small a to Z, 97 to 122. Small a is 97, small b 98, then 99. Just like that, small z is 122. And 0 to 9 ASCII code, 0 is 48, 1 is 49, 2 is 50, and 9 is 57. And ASCII code of space, what we press in the keyboard, ASCII code of space is 32. So this ASCII code we should be knowing for doing various programs later. Now the tokens in Java. Tokens are the fundamental building blocks of a program. We can say it is the smallest part of a program identified by the Java compiler. For example, take this expression int a is equal to 5 into 3. Each part of this expression is a token. Int is a keyword we will be learning now. A is the identifier, equal is the assignment operator, and 5 and 3 are constants and multiplication sign. That means each part of an expression it is known as a token. That is why we are saying the smallest part of a program identified by Java compiler is the token. The different types of tokens are keywords, identifiers, literals, operators, and separators. Remember the word kilos. Here we can say K for keyword, I for identifier, L for literal, O for operator, and S for separators. Now we can discuss each token in detail. Keywords we can say keywords or reserved words are those words which convey a specific meaning to Java compiler and perform some specific task. They are already defined in the language and cannot be used as variables or identifier. Because all these keywords contain or convey a specific meaning, so we cannot use them or recreate them as variable name or identifier name. And all keywords in Java must start with a small letter. Otherwise, we can say lowercase letter, as Java is case sensitive. Case sensitive means the meaning of capital letter and small letters will be different. ASCII code is also different, and the meaning conveyed by small letter and capital letter both are treated differently in Java. And now we can see some of the keywords in Java. Here total 51 keywords are there. So the primitive data types, all of them are keywords, modifiers, all the declaration we will make, all the class we create, control flow, if else, try catch, and this new super. All these are different types of keyword, and they cannot be used for creating a class name or a variable name. Next is identifier. Identifiers are the fundamental building blocks of a program and are used to name various components like class name, variable name, methods, and objects. We will create the identifier name ourselves, so some rules have to be followed, and this identifier can change the value during the program execution. So the rules which we have to follow: the identifier should be a combination of letters, digits, and underscore and characters. So we cannot start with the number. That means it will be a combination of letters. One or two letters can be there. Even one can be created as an identifier, as a variable name, digits, and underscore. An identifier must begin with an alphabet. So whenever we are creating a class name or a variable name, it is must that the identifier should start with an alphabet. Identifier cannot begin with a digit. And both uppercase and lowercase letters can be used. Java is case sensitive. That means it will treat the capital letter and small letter differently. So both cases we have to check. If we are creating the identifier in small letters, we have to use in small letter only. And if we are creating in capital letter, we have to use in capital letters. An identifier cannot contain a keyword, comma, space, dot, or null letter. So these are the rules which we have to keep in mind while creating an identifier. Now we can see some valid identifier. For example, AB12C. Number is there, but it is not in the beginning, so it is valid. XYZ12 and ABC underscore 125. So underscore is allowed, so these are the valid. And invalid we can see in the first one, AB space is here. Space is not allowed in the identifier, so it is invalid. If is a keyword, and 2ABC, the identifier or the variable name is starting with a number or digit, so it is not valid. And in the last one, comma is coming in between, so it is also not valid. The next token is literal. Literals are sequence of characters that represent values in a program. That means the values which are stored in a variable, it is known as a literal, and they do not change their values during the program execution, and literals are made up of digits, letters and other characters. For example, when we say int a is equal to 25, 25 is the value and 25 is the literal. When we say string b is equal to computer, computer is the string literal. So the values, whatever values we are storing in a variable or identifier, it is known as a literal. And now literals can be divided into numeric, non-numeric, boolean and non-literal. And numeric again can be divided into integer literal and real literal. Non-numeric can be divided into character and strings. So one by one we can define all these different types of literals. Now, numerical literals. Numerical literals are values that contain the digits 0 to 9. There can be a sign, positive or negative sign can be there, a decimal point can be there, and if there is no sign, it will be considered as a positive number. So, some examples are given: 23 minus 56 plus 89 minus 89.24 plus 78.52. So all these are examples of numeric literals. And numerical literals are divided into integer literals and real literal. Integer literal, any whole number, positive or negative, without a decimal point. In the integer literal, decimal point will not be there. And if the number is not marked as positive or negative, it will be considered as a positive number. So here some examples are there: 23 minus 56. Same numbers we can take, and some invalid numbers also we can see here. In the first case, 12, after 12 space is given, so it is not valid. Second case, a comma is coming between the digits, so it is not valid. And now integer literals are divided into decimal, octal and hexa. Decimal integer literal means all those numbers from 0 to 9. But the starting digit should not be 0. The numbers which we are writing normally from 0 to 9, 0 can come in between but not in the beginning. So, for example, here some numbers are given: 125 minus 578, positive or negative numbers can be there. Octal we have done in small class. Octal and hexadecimal. Octal means 8 digits, 0 to 7. So numbers from 0 to 7 will be coming in octal number. If a digit is above 7, it is not an octal. That means 056075. Hexadecimal has 16 digits, 0 to 9 and 8 to F. So numbers can be, example is given here. The number will start with 0x. X can be capital or small. So here 0x8982, 0x845. So all these are example of hexadecimal number. Now real literals are also known as fractional point literals. Any number positive or negative with a decimal point is known as floating point or real literal. And these can be written in two forms: fractional forms and exponent form. First we can discuss the fractional form. The normal decimal number which we write, it is the fractional form number. A real literal in fractional form consists of signed and unsigned digit. That means it can be positive number or it can be negative number, including a decimal point in between the digit. So a number without a sign is considered as a positive. And real literal in fractional form, there is one condition: at least one digit should be before and after the decimal point. So here we can see the valid literals: 23.56 plus 89.3, signed or unsigned doesn't matter, but one digit should be before and after the number. And here invalid, 73 point, because after point there is no number, it is invalid. 0.256, before the decimal point there is no digit, so it is also invalid. 23.5.6, two decimal numbers digits are there, so two decimal points are there, so it is invalid. And now exponent. A real literal in exponent form consists of two parts: mantissa and exponent. For example, if there is a number 1.9 into 10 raised to 5, here we can see 1.9 is coming here. This will be, when you write in the exponent form, you will write like this 1.9. That means this number you will write first, and in place of 10, you will write E. And raised to 5, that 5 will come later. So the real literal can be written like this: 1.9 into 10.5 means 1.9. This will be the mantissa, the part before E. Whatever numbers are before E will be the mantissa, and number after E will be exponent. So raised to 5 means E5. And here 2.3 into 10 raised to 8. That means 2.3 we will write as the mantissa part 2.3, and in place of 10 E will come and raised to 8. That means E8. So exponent form we will write, and even if we are that means if we are reversing exponent form into fractional form, we can say 2.3 into the multiplication side will come, and in place of E 10 will come, 10 raised to 8. So like this we can convert exponent form into fractional form and fractional form into exponent form. Now we can discuss non-numeric literals. First of all, character literals. These are values with exactly one character engulfed in a single quote. It can be an alphabet, digit, special character, or a space. Here we can see some characters are there. Each single character is engulfed in a single quote, and this is known as a character literal. Even single space can be engulfed in a single quote. And second one is string literal. One or more values engulfed in double quotes. Alphabets, words, digits, special characters. If it is engulfed in double quotes, it is known as a string literal. Example, computer and the digit 1, 2, 3. And now Boolean literal. Here we can see this shows positive or negative. Boolean literal is true or false. So either positive or negative. During a logical evolution, it will show on, off, true, false, or positive, negative. So according to that, we will give the value true, otherwise false. And last one is null literal. It is a reserved constant used in Java to represent a null value. That means a value that does not contain anything, not even blank or zero. It actually points to the address of the given variable. Now the next token is operators. Operators are symbols or signs used to perform various operations on operand, and they specify the operation to be performed in Java expression or statement. We will be discussing all the operators in a separate video in detail. The operators based on the operands they are using. For example, when we are saying A is equal to 5, 5 is the operand. So based on the operands we are using, operators can be classified into unary, binary, and ternary. Unary means one operand, binary means two operand, and ternary means three operand. And Java operators can be classified into following categories: arithmetical operators, that means all the plus, minus, multiplication, modulus, and quotient sign will come here. Relational operators, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. And logical operators, three logical operators are there: shorthand operators and bitwise operators. So all these operators we will be discussing in detail in the next video. Last token is separators, otherwise we can call as punctuator. They are specific symbol used to indicate how the group of codes are divided and arranged. Separators do not perform any particular operation. They just separate the statements, perform the task, just like making the compound statement, declaration of array and variables. The square bracket used to declare an array. We can use the square bracket or separators for declaring an array. Brackets engulf the arguments in the functions, and all type of programs to input the arguments, we use the brackets. And braces to define a compound block or initialize an array. So no specific operations are done by separators, but just to declare an array, just to define a compound block or accept the arguments, they are used. Now we can discuss escape sequence. Escape sequence are non-graphic characters that cannot be directly typed from the keyboard. It comes under character literal. The character is preceded by a backslash, and it controls the way how printing is done. And these are used in the printing statements of Java. So this is the definition of escape sequence. Now we can discuss escape sequence in detail. Suppose we have to print one sentence in which you want the double quotes, you want to quote someone's quote, you want to put a single quote, you have to put a backslash. in between you have to bring the next line without typing the proper system.println. So there we use escape sequence. Escape sequence help us to get the output in a particular way which is not easy with the proper system.println statement. The printing statement in Java is system.println. We will be studying this in the next video. So escape sequence are used when we do the printing and when we want a typical kind of output. So now we can see what are the escape sequence. Here some examples are given. /n. Here backslash, here it is the backslash. So it is preceded by the backslash. It is given here. It is preceded by a backslash. So /n means if you type /n in between, the output, whatever output is after this will come to the next line. /t means tab space. A gap of 16 characters will be coming in between both the lines. // means in the output slash will be coming. /quote means single quote will be coming, and here double quotes will be coming if you type like this. /r means carriage return and /b means backspace. So we can now discuss with the help of example. And here we can see escape sequence, why they are called so. The slash allow the character, whatever character is following. For example, /n properly what we will do, as soon as we give the system.println statement, whatever is typed inside will be printed. But this slash will allow the character following it to escape from doing what it is supposed to do. It is supposed to do the printing in a proper way, in a normal way. So after the backslash, whatever character you are typing, that will not do the particular work what it is supposed to do. That is why it escaped from doing so. That is why the name comes escape sequence. For example, /t. /t means normally if you say system.println t has to be printed. But if you say /t, t will not be printed. It escaped from printing and a gap is given. So for that purpose, so /t means a gap will be given. /n means next line will be coming. So that particular character will not be printing. It escaped from doing so and it will do another work. That is why the name comes escape sequence. And escape sequence are always engulfed in double quotes. Now we can see some example and this will help you to understand better. Here some questions are given and outputs are given. System.println we will be studying later, but system.println is the command for printing in Java. And now here the first question, system.println double quotes, the king said. Yes, / double quotes means this is an escape sequence. Escape sequence are coming here and here. I am very happy to me. So the king said, I am very happy to me. So when you see the output, so in the output, these first two are of system.println, that will not come in the output. But if you give the double quotes after a slash, that this will be coming in the output. So double quotes, if you want in the output, you have to take the help of an escape sequence. So output will be like this. And now system.println computer is fun. /n is coming. /n means next line. So here output will be computer is fun. And the next one also we can discuss the difference of /n and /r. Computer is fun. /r means carriage return. We have discussed this now. /r means carriage return. /n means new line. In both the output will be same. When you print, the output will be same. So the difference, what is the difference between /n and /r? If the outputs are same, /n, when you give the command, the cursor after printing, the cursor will be coming in the beginning of next line. So here see it, the next line is fun, and /n means the cursor will be coming in the beginning of the next line, and output will be like this. And /r means output will be whatever you type after r will come in the next line, but cursor will be coming in the beginning of the same line. So that is the difference. So output there is no difference and we cannot show the cursor. So here we can see /n means the whatever part is giving come in the next line, and /r also same output. Difference is only where the cursor come. /n cursor will come after that means in the beginning of the next line, and /r this will come in the beginning of the same line. And system out println slash t means space will be coming, 16 space will be here. And here single quotes slash, here we are having the single quotes, that means in the output, this is the output or answer, single quotes will be coming. And slash means in the output slash will be coming. The first slash is for escape sequence and second slash will be printed. And system out println the bird, here it is here, that means bird slash b. Slash b means cursor is supposed to come after the line, so one space back. Slash b means backspace will be coming, so here cursor will come one space, that means at the end of the last line. Slash b is for backspace. So I hope you understood the concept. The next important topic is data types. Data types are defined as the data storage format that a variable can store to perform the specific operation. So, how to store the data? In what form we can store the data? So, data types are used for storing the data of a particular category. It will specify the size and type of values that can be stored in an identifier. So if for example decimal number, integer number, what type of numbers you want to store. So that can be done through declaring the data types. And this helps to identify the type of data involved in the operation. And we are having two types of data types, primitive and non-primitive. Definition we can see first. Primitive automatically loads in the memory. As soon as you start the Java program, the primitive data type will automatically load in the memory. It is also known as intrinsic data type or predefined data type or fundamental data type. So any of these names can be used for. And there are 8 types of primitive data type. This we will be seeing in the next page. Non-primitive data types, those data types which are derived from the primitive data types. They are not defined themselves. By using the primitive data types, we are declaring the primitive. They are also known as composite data types or reference data type. And some non-primitive data types are classes, arrays, and interface. Java provides a large number of data types to utilize the memory. The question arises why we need different types of data types. To make the program easy, if we store the particular value in proper data type, so we can categorize them and then use them in the program. For example, to understand the concept, we can take this example. The variable names are given as name, roll number, marks, and grade. We have to declare the data type for these variables. And now the data values which we are storing, the name is Sarita, roll number is 25, mark 95.6 and grade is A. Now we can think what kind of data type we can give. So name means more than one character. We have learned about the string literal. More than one character means it is a string literal. So we have to declare the variable as string. And roll number is an integer number. So we can declare the variable as int or any other type of integer data type. Marks, we can discuss 95.6 means decimal point is coming, so real literal. And grade is a character, so we can declare the variable as a character variable. So for categorizing the different values according to the format, we need the data type. Now we can see the different types of data types. Data types are divided into primitive and non-primitive as we have already discussed, and there are 8 types of primitive data types. They are byte, short, int long, float, double, char and boolean. And non-primitive data types which are derived from the primitive data types can be classified as class, arrays and interface. Now we can discuss primitive data types in detail. First of all, we can see the primitive data types that can store only integer numbers. They are byte, short, int and long. So these data types, if you declare a variable by using these data types, they will not be able to store a number which is having a decimal point. And now how much space they will occupy? Byte occupies 1 byte. That means if you are declaring a variable, for example, byte b, it will need 1 byte of space to store it. And short 2 bytes, int 4 and long 8. And now what is the default value? Default value means when you are declaring a variable, this value will be automatically stored in the variable if a value is not given. For example, if you declare byte A and if you are not storing a value, 0 will be stored automatically in A. So default value means the value which is stored automatically in a variable as soon as you declare it by using the particular data types. So byte default value is 0, short default value is 0, int also 0 and long 0l. And now the range. That means what is the smallest number and what is the biggest number that can be stored. In byte, the smallest number that can be stored is -128 and the biggest number is 127. In short, the smallest number is -32768 and biggest number is 32767. int smallest number, it is a big number, -2 raised to 31. That means 2 into 2 into 31 times you multiply, -2 raised to 31 to 2 raised to 31 minus 1. And long, the smallest value -2 raised to 63 and biggest value is 2 raised to 63 minus 1. And now the question arises, if we are having int and long, what is the need of byte and short? We can straightly declare a variable as int a or long l. Just think, if you want to store a glass of water, will you prefer a small glass or a big bucket? For storing a small quantity, we need only the glass. No need of bucket to store just one glass of water. So like that, if you declare a variable, if you want to store a small variable, a small value, then if you declare the variable as int, it will occupy large space. There is no need of that. We can declare the small value as byte b. So that is why we are having different types of data types. Now the primitive data types which can store float, otherwise decimal numbers. They are float and double. Float occupies 4 bytes and double occupies 8 bytes of space. And default value of float is 0.0f and default value of double is 0.0d. And range 3.4e minus 38 to 3.4e plus 38. Scientific notation we have done already, and that means 3.4 into 10 raised to minus 38 to 3.4e into 10 raised to plus 38. And range of double is 1.7e minus 308 to 1.7e plus 308. Now the precision, that means how many digits can be there after decimal point. If you declare a variable as float, after decimal point 7 digits can be there. And if you declare a variable as double, after decimal point 15 digits can be there. So the precision of double is 15 and float is 7. The last two primitive data types are char and boolean. Char for character, it occupies 2 bytes and boolean occupies only 1 bit of space. And default value of a character data type is /u and 4 zeros. And boolean is false. And range, character can be from 0 to 65,535 and boolean, there is no range, it is only true or false. Coming to non-primitive data types, they are also known as reference data types, composite data types, otherwise we can call them as derived data types. They are formed with the help of primitive data types, example arrays, classes and interface. This we will be doing in detail later. Reference data types are used to store the memory address of an object or class. Variables. Variable is a name given to the memory location that can contain a given value. Now see how we can declare a variable. We can write the data type first and the variable name second. So if we are declaring A and B as int, we can declare like this: int A semicolon int B. That means if you are putting the semicolon data type, you have to declare once again for the second variable. Otherwise, if two variables are of same data types, we can also declare them like this: int x comma y. Don't put the semicolon in between, just put a comma. So no need to write the data type once again. And now how to store the values? Int y is equal to 25. Here we are declaring the value variable indy at the same time we are storing the value. So indy is equal to 25. And in this case, indy a we have declared, and now we are saying a is equal to 10. So after declaring in the second step, we are saying a is equal to 10. So we can assign the values either at the time of declaration, otherwise declare it first and then use it. Just like the naming ceremony of a child, the naming ceremony will be done only once, and after that the child will be called by that particular name, and every day the naming ceremony will not be performed to call it again. So you will declare the variable only once, inda. After declaring it for the first time, whenever you want to use the variable, you will just use the variable name variable name, and then no need of saying inda again. So a is equal to 10. And here character t is equal to a. We are declaring the variable t as a character and storing the value a. It is in single quotes because it is a character variable in t. So t will be having the value a. And character g is equal to 1. Digits also can be stored in a character variable, but one single digit, not double digit. Boolean, either true or false we can store without double quotes. So if you are declaring a variable as Boolean, we can store either true, otherwise false. Double T, any decimal number we can store. In this line, we are storing 25.36 in the variable T. And float, whenever you are storing a value in a float, you have to write F in end, because by default the decimal numbers are double. So float we have to convert it. So 23.25 and then store the value F. So 23.25 F. And now symbolic constant. Constants are values that we have done that cannot be changed. And name constants in Java are called a symbolic constant. For example, double pi is equal to 3.14. The value of pi will not change. And if you are using a symbolic constant, the variable name will be in capital Pi. So now we have learned how to declare a variable. Data type and the variable name int mark string a float b. So at the same time we can assign the value or later. And two type of initialization we can see now. Static initialization and dynamic initialization. In static initialization, the value will be assigned at the time of variable declaration. That means before the program execution also value will be stored. So if we are saying int a is equal to 15, we are declaring the variable int a is the variable name, it is declared as int, and we are storing the value at the same time or before the execution. And string x is equal to computer. So this value also is stored in the variable x before compilation, before execution of the program, and at the time of declaration. So this type of initialization is known as static initialization. And in dynamic initialization, the values will be assigned at the time of execution, not before that. Before the program runs, the value will not be given. For example, here we are declaring int a is 5 and int x is 50, which is static. And now here we are saying int t is equal to a plus x. That means the variable t will get the value only when the program compiles, not before that. So if the value is given at the time of execution, then it is known as dynamic initialization. The next important topic is type conversion. Type conversion means converting one data type into another. We have learned about the data type. So if you want to convert one data type into another, we will be using the type conversion. And two types of type conversions are there: implicit conversion, otherwise we can say widening conversion, and explicit or narrowing. Converting a lower data type into higher data type automatically is known as implicit or widening conversion. That means converting a smaller data type which occupies less space to a bigger data type which occupies large space. Just like storing one glass of water in a bucket. In this case, no loss of data will be there. We can automatically store the value and no need of extra commands. In this case, both the data types should be compatible with each other. Some examples we can see. We are declaring two variables int a is equal to 5 and short t is equal to 25. Int we have already learned it will occupy 4 bytes in memory and short will occupy 2. And now when we are converting int g, here we are declaring a new variable g. Int g is equal to t. T is declared as short which occupies 2 bytes. So we are converting this short value into int. So 25 will be there, number will be there in both the variables. But in this line we are converting the short into int and it will be transferred to a place which contain 4 bytes. That means 2 we are transferring to 4 bytes. So automatically conversion will be done and no need of extra commands. Other example, float b is equal to 25.5f. So float b will write f at the end. Float b, the variable we have declared as b, we are storing 25.5 and float occupies 4 bytes. Double c is equal to b. So double occupies 8 bytes. So when we are converting float, b is a float, converting float to double, this number will be converted to double. That means it will become 25.5 and it will be stored in C. So C will be having the value 25.5. And now double x is equal to A. A is of integer type. So when we are transferring A or converting int to double, so the value 5 will be stored in the variable x. So if we are printing out, that means system will print, if we are printing in x, the value will be stored as 5.0 because double is of float decimal type. So 5.0 will be stored in x and no loss of data is there. The number is stored as 5.0. The next example, long y is equal to a. The int which occupy 4 we are storing in by and long occupies 8 bytes. Int x is equal to t. This also we have declared here. The short can be declared as int. Otherwise we can also say long x is equal to t or double x is equal to t or float x is equal to t. Small to big we can convert. And here double x is equal to y. Long and double both occupies 8 bytes. But double is considered little big because double can store decimal values also while long cannot. So this conversion is implicit because even if both of them occupy 8 bytes, double can store decimal numbers. So this type of automatic conversion from small to big, it is known as implicit data type. Now we can see what all implicit conversions can be done without difficult. Byte. Byte contain 1 byte. Byte can be converted into short which contain 2 bytes. So small to big. That means byte can be converted into short without any further command or any extra command. And both of them can be converted into int which is of 4 bytes. And here we can see character also 2 bytes. So character can be converted into int. And now int can be converted into float which is of 4 bytes and int can also be converted into long. Character also can be converted into all these data types and long contain 8 bytes. Long can be converted into double without any extra command. That means small to big. Here we have to keep in mind small to big. Byte which is small 1 byte can be converted to all data types which are bigger than that. Short 2 bytes can be converted to all data types other than byte. So one small data type can be converted into other data type without difficulty. It is known as implicit conversion. And int can be converted into double also, long also, and long can be converted into float. Even if it is 4 bytes, because of the decimal point, it is considered as big. Next is explicit conversion. Converting a higher data type into lower data type is known as explicit conversion. In explicit conversion, the conversion is not done automatically. We need to convert the data by using an explicit command that is given in the bracket. And these data types need not be compatible with each other. And here the type of explicit conversion we can do is we can convert a double into float, we can convert a double into long int or byte, and we can convert short into long and long into int. That means the big data types can be converted into small data types which occupy less space. Some examples are given here to make the concept clear. So here we can say double A is equal to 50.5. That means the 50.5 value is stored in a variable which is double, and double occupies 8 bytes of space in memory. And now if you are converting the double into short, we can declare like this: short p is equal to short. Explicit command is given in bracket, short of a. A is the double variable, so we are converting the double into short. And short occupies 2 bytes of space. That means big into small. So in this case, decimal part will go. That loss of data will be there. And double can be converted explicitly to int also. Int occupies 4 bytes of space. So here int x is equal to int of a. Explicit command is given for converting into int, and this also make data loss. That means 50.5. If you are storing an integer variable, answer will be 50. One more example we can take: float x is equal to 23.5f. Float variable is converted into int forcefully. Here we are saying int y is equal to int of f. That means float is converted to int even if the bytes are same. But float have decimal point and int do not have a decimal point. So loss of precision, loss of data will be there. Answer will be 23 in by. Here also data loss can be there. So in explicit conversion, data loss will be there, and implicit conversion, no loss of data will be there. So that is all for this video. I hope you understood the concept clearly, and if you like the video, please press the like button and don't forget to subscribe those who haven't subscribed till now. In the upcoming videos, we will be discussing in detail about the operators and mathematical functions. See you all in next video.